Karen Johnson is a former Arizona state senator. She served from 1997 to 2008. During her time in office, she was frequently a voice of reason in the midst of insanity. She was most notable for her dedication to family values, her staunch position on the absolute right of each of us to keep and bear firearms for our protection and the protection of our state and country. Karen also promoted the idea of secession, seldom failing to raise her voice on behalf of freedom lovers throughout the United States. She is the definition of a family woman. She has one husband, 11 children, and either 26 or 28 grandchildren. I forget. She has visited with us before, and God willing, she'll do so again in the future. Let's welcome back to the Global Freedom Report, Senator Karen Johnson. Karen, how are you?
Hello, Brent. I'm doing just fine, thank you.
Is it 26 or 28?
Now, are you sitting down? Actually, now it's 35.
Oh, my God. Is it still 11 children?
Yes. We had a tragedy about 3 years ago. Our oldest daughter passed away in an automobile accident, so we have 10 living and still going.
35 grand. Do we have any great-grandchildren yet?
You know, we don't. We have a grandson that our oldest one's 28. He has chosen not to marry yet, and we have no great-grandchildren. So we're disappointed, but we're looking forward to it.
All right. Oh, excellent. Karen, it's been 6 months since you visited with us here on the show. So the first thing I want to ask you is, how would you characterize any changes you have observed since then, in the last 6 months, with respect to the overall relationship between the government and the people?
Oh, my gosh, Brent. I think we are going faster downhill than we've ever gone. I have a hard time not crying when I see the extent to which the federal government especially is just taking us into complete and abject slavery. That's how I see it. I mean, we're becoming a socialist communist nation.
Becoming, huh? Okay.
You may already be into it.
Yeah, it seems like we it seems like we are. Do you have any thoughts on what they just did with the debt ceiling?
Oh, I'm livid. I am livid. We elected a new congressman from our district up here in northern Arizona who supposedly, was a Tea Party candidate. And the guy voted for raising the debt ceiling. He voted for this latest, Boehner scheme. I think they're all so corrupt and so off course back there that they all should be impeached, and we need to start with a new Congress, except for just a few, namely Ron and Rand Paul and maybe Senator Lee, and there's a few others back there.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. Unfortunately, Ron is going to leave at the end of this year, so he can devote himself to the his presidential candidacy, and that will just leave Rand and one or two others, exactly. And it's a problem. I believe the only way, I don't think it'll be fixed in Congress. I think it'll be fixed when we actually do find ourselves unable to pay the bills and unable to borrow money. Our credit rating's about to be lowered again because now we're going to go into further debt without reducing spending. And so that'll make us less credit worthy, and that'll be lowered, and that'll have effect. And it will reach a point where we can't borrow anymore because nobody's going to loan us.
Oh, Brent, it's so true. And when I watch the media reporting, this deal, they're making it sound like we've cut spending by over $2 trillion, which is absolutely false.
No, and Ron Paul actually did, he did a commentary on exactly what happened. You have to remember, he's there. He saw the legislation. So you and I, we might talk about what we think about what's been reported to us, but he saw it himself, so he speaks with some credibility. And he said absolutely what they've done is they've simply said, well, we're scheduled to raise spending by so much between now and the next 10 years. We agreed to raise spending by less. That's what they call a spending cut.
That's all it is. The Republicans should be hanging their heads in shame. I think there were 66 Republicans that voted no, and where they're all coming from, I don't know, but at least that's something.
Actually, in the House, I think there was a total of something like 161 who voted no. I mean, there was a sizable number that voted no.
Wow.
There was.
All right.
Yeah. It wasn't a slam dunk. I mean, they passed it with a majority of 100 or more. So it wasn't close, but it wasn't insignificant, the number who actually voted no, which is something at least. I'm not sure how much is politics or what. You're one of my favorite people, by the way, because I know how genuine you are in your pursuit of liberty.
You are very, very kind. I probably speak my mind a little bit too much, but
I don't think there's any such thing. I think we've evolved this sterile, stagnant society in which nobody can do anything at all for fear that somebody will be offended. And you'll forgive me. I've had people all my life tell me I'm arrogant or I'm mean. I'm none of these things. I'm not, but I am clear. And I do say what's on my mind, and you do too, and I think we need more people like us.
Well, you know what? I'm a very passionate person when it comes to freedom and liberty, Brent. I mean, our founding fathers, as far as I'm concerned, were the most inspired men that God could find at that time to put together this most inspired document called the Constitution. And if we would live by it, we would be very successful, very free, and very happy people, instead of now living in nothing but what I consider a cesspool and becoming slaves.
You heard her. Okay, I didn't put her up to that. She said it. You heard her. Now go do it. Karen, in general, do you think governments, now listen carefully, do you think governments, through their various agents and representatives, are engaging in violations of the people more so today than when you were serving in the state Senate? Or is it just that information gets around faster today?
No, I definitely think that the slippery slope has gotten a lot slipperier, if you want to say that, Brent. In our own state legislature here in Arizona, this last session, I keep up as much as I can. I don't live down in the Phoenix area anymore, so I don't get over to the legislature, but I've still got a lot of contacts, and I keep in pretty close touch. But we had several bills, in regards to Tom Woods' proposition to, what is the word? And it's slipping my mind right now. Come on and help me, Brent.
I'm not sure which one this is.
Okay, nullification.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking of. Anyway, there were several bills having to do with nullification, which were very, very good bills and that I would have strongly supported, and they all got defeated in our Arizona state legislature, even though we had more supposed conservatives get elected this last term. So I was quite disappointed in that.
Well, you must, however, have felt somewhat good at the recent Supreme Court ruling, and I'm still stunned that the Supreme Court issued a ruling that actually supports the Constitution. But the ruling that said that the state law in Arizona to essentially punish businesses for hiring illegal aliens was absolutely constitutional. You must have some good feelings about that.
Yes. We have quite a controversy going on here in Arizona right now because our Senate president, who is Russell Pierce, who was my seatmate, he was a member of the House of Representatives when I was a senator from our district, and Russell and I are very, very close and very good friends. Russell was the one that authored, if you want to call it that, Senate Bill 1017, which is the bill that has to do with the illegal immigration here in the state of Arizona, the one that mirrored the federal bill, that Janet Napolitano had such a fit about. And it subsequently has been ruled, for the most part, pretty constitutional, and so they're moving forward. But Russell is now being recalled. They got enough signatures out of his district to run a recall election on him, and that is coming up this November. And it's a complete and total waste of time and money to do this. He's going to be reelected, but the, open border group is just really pushing this forward. It's very sad.
Politics. Dirty place, and you actually survived for quite a number of years in politics. I want to talk to you about the town of Quartzsite. Quartzsite is located, about 3 hours southeast or so of Phoenix. Are you familiar with the town at all? Have you ever been there?
I have. Yeah, it's quite a little rock town. They have a time of year where people gather from almost all over the world, and the population explodes as they have these great rock shows. So it's kind of a well-known place.
Yeah, its history is as a mining town, which is why they have rock shows and all that kind of stuff. All right. Now, Quartzsite has been in the news of late. Let's see. Town council emasculated the mayor, effectively removing him from his elected position. Council issued an ordinance that people could not say anything bad about the city, even in the privacy of their own homes. They then outlawed free assemblies, meaning any assemblies without council permission. And now we hear that 14 police officers who objected to these unconstitutional tactics have been relieved of duty. Do you have any idea what's happening in Quartzsite, Arizona?
I don't know as much about it as I wish I did. I've tried to find out a little bit more, Brent, but I have watched the mayor in his speeches or in his talk and felt for him in the things that he was saying, how he has been removed as the mayor, so to speak, even though he still retains that title. The council has taken over. And if I understood him correctly, I think it was 7 or 8 of the 12 or possibly 14 officers that are in Quartzsite, it's a small area, that were put under house arrest and not allowed to leave their homes, which all of this is totally unconstitutional. I mean, it's ridiculous what is going on there.
This is something out of a 1940s movie.
Oh,
it is.
You
got the guy taking over the town, and you need to get a gunslinger from some other town. I mean, that's what this is like.
Well, I think it's the chief of police that has kind of taken over, from what I understood from the mayor. And
I thought it was the town manager who was the boss. We had Ed Foster on the show a couple of weeks ago, and I believe he said that that the guy behind all of this is the town manager, and the police chief is in on it. But
okay, they're working together. I'm telling you, DPS, our Department of Public Safety here in Arizona, is supposedly investigating all of this. It's taking them quite a long time, and all of this. I don't know why the people in Quartzsite have not risen up and gone down to that city hall and deposed all those city council people, and
well, it sounds like the police are being very heavy-handed. At least the chief is in supporting this. So maybe some people have, and they've been shut down, and we don't even know about it. I mean, that's certainly possible. I understand. Finally, the state attorney general has acknowledged there may be something to investigate. You were with the state. Now, here's the question for you, because when I spoke to Ed Foster a couple of weeks ago, the mayor, he said that he was trying to get the state involved. He was unsuccessful. He said essentially the state wasn't doing its job to protect its laws from local usurpers. Now, from your experience, in a situation like this, is the state incompetent, or is it just bureaucratically slow and unresponsive?
Probably both, Brent. I'm very unhappy and disappointed that our governor, Jan Brewer, has not stepped in and made a big deal out of this. If I was governor, I would be right over there looking into what in the heck is going on there, because this is so out of character and out of context and should not be happening and unconstitutional. And these people don't have any protection right now that live in Quartzsite.
Well, and in all honesty, it sounded like I was being, mirthful, but it's like a 1940s Western, a movie, in one of these old West towns that somebody's taken over and the people are being victimized, and they try to, remember High Noon? Everybody was afraid to stand up.
You know what, Brent? This is causing me really a lot of concern, because this is not a totally isolated thing that's happening. I have to tell you that here in Show Low, we haven't had anything exactly like that happen. But these people, these small town people or rural people in these little towns that get in and become city councilmen or mayors, I don't know what happens to them, but it's like the power kind of goes to their head. And when people come in, like the woman did in Quartzsite, she's standing up there trying to speak to the council. She was very polite. She was very mannerly from what I saw. and they had her removed by the police because they did not like what she was saying to them. You know, I'm sorry, when you become an elected official, you know, it's incumbent upon you to listen to everything that comes to you, whether it's not what you like or whether it is. You know, you've got to give the other side their opportunity too. And so it's just incredible to me how these city councils try to shut people down that come in and have complaints or are unhappy with the way they're being treated.
Well, I think it comes down to a very basic issue. Several years ago, I asked Ron Paul whether he thought that his colleagues in Congress considered themselves to be more our rulers or our public servants. He'd never been asked a question like that. I tend to do that. And he thought about it. You know, he's very straight and he's very honest. And he gave us some thought, and he said, well, you know, the truth is I think in most cases they're probably not really malicious, but I think they think of themselves as the rulers. And therein is the problem. When you have people get on a town council and they think that they are public servants, you have no issue. You have no issue, and you and I have nothing to discuss. But when you have people get on these councils and they think of themselves as the rulers, that's where it all falls apart.
Yeah, and Brent, our society today, our media today, and everything plays into that. People that get elected, that is how they are promoted. And they begin to believe it themselves, or that's just the way it is. And the little guy out there, we become nothing. We don't, you know, we're the serfs. We're to do what we are told. And boy, if you don't do what you're told, then, I don't know, maybe they want to label you a terrorist now.
Absolutely, you know? And that's exactly where it's going. And the only solution is for people to not comply. Now, let's go back to Quartzsite. What powers does the state have to address the complaints about the Quartzsite Town Council? I mean, you were in the state legislature, so I figure you're pretty equipped to tell us what could the state do.
Well, I would certainly think that the two representatives and senator from that particular district ought to be raising their voices, you know, to the limit on what's going on here. Let's find out what's happening here, and being, you know, a representative there of those people to the state, through the media, through going to the governor's office. Tom Horn is our attorney general, and I served with Tom for many years in the legislature. Tom's an attorney. He's a pretty good guy. I would think that Tom, with some pressure, and that's maybe where your legislature should be putting pressure on Tom. What the heck's going on there, Tom? Get over there. Get an investigation going.
Yeah, my understanding is that has happened, and he's at least saying there might be something to investigate, which is more than he has been saying. But what I meant to ask you was, okay, we do these investigations. What powers does the state possess to stop what's going on? I mean, let's say they investigate and they find that, yes, indeed, the council went out and the council said that people can't say anything bad, even in the privacy of their own homes. And the council can't do that. What can the state do to stop the council?
Well, Brent, I don't know that I've got an answer for you because I'm not sure. I guess that the people there in the city of Quartzsite could petition the governor, or petition, by that I don't mean go out and get signatures, but, you know, as a group come before the governor, go down to the governor's office and say, you know, we've got to have your help. You need to come in with
what powers does he have?
Who, the mayor or the governor?
The governor or the attorney general or anyone in the state. What powers does the state have to go in and stop council? Can the state somehow abrogate the ordinance? Just make it say, hey, this ordinance is bogus and you can't have it. Or would that have to go through the courts? Does the state have any kind of direct power to stop the antics that we've just discussed?
Okay, the other level in between the state and the city is the county there. I'm not sure whether that's in Mojave County. We've got 15 counties here in Arizona, and I think Quartzsite is in Mojave County. And I do know that your Mojave County supervisors, I think for the most part, are not the greatest. And so I don't know that you'd get a whole lot out of them. but those are the entities right under the state. And so I don't know whether it would have to go through them, and you'd need to get some help, from them petitioning the state. But the governor has got to have some leeway here, I would think, Brent, to go in and say, to heck with all of this. What you're doing is absolutely wrong, and you're going to have to come together here, or we're going to send people in or something.
Yeah, I would think there's something, but I thought you might know of something. I'm a little distressed that you don't.
I'm
okay.
sorry. I apologize. I can sure try to find out and let you know.
I'd love to know. I'd love to know what could happen.
Okay.
Now, the other question is, if the state does end up taking some kind of action, can the state actually prosecute? For example, can the state decide we're going to prosecute, the town administrator
manager,
or the police?
Who else?
Or any of those? Could that happen? Or is this the kind of thing that ends up with just slaps on the respective bureaucrats' wrists?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Brent, I will make a point in the next day or two to delve into this really heavy duty with that question, which is very good, and see what I can find out for you. And I'll email you and get back to you.
I appreciate that. Now,
you bet I will.
Let me ask you this now. We've seen over the last several months and last year, we've seen a number of situations where government, and sometimes state, sometimes federal, any number of governments have gone beyond their constitutionally prescribed powers, and citizens have come out and tried to sue for a variety of reasons. Some of the more known ones are the ones suing about the Obama birth issue, but they're not the only ones. And inevitably, the courts come out, and when citizens file these types of lawsuits or lawsuits against corrupt officials, they're told they have no standing, and their cases are dismissed without ever being heard. Why is it that ordinary citizens are regarded as having no legal standing to object to official misconduct by their public servant?
Boy, that's an excellent question. Because in my opinion, they have all the standing in the world because they're public servants, and the people that have brought, the requests are the ones they're supposed to be serving. So, of course they have standing. Why the courts are like that is because, in my opinion, they're so screwed up. They don't understand the Constitution. They're not following the rule of law. And those kinds of people should be impeached. But we don't even have state legislators that are willing to do that with judges. We've got judges in Arizona, that have been caught bringing marijuana across the Arizona-Mexico border, and nothing gets done about it. So it's incredible how the rule of law has just slipped so far down the pipe, Brent.
And I have to say, I think one of the major reasons is that the various governments that make up the republic are supposed to be citizen government. We're each of us supposed to do our share. Go serve in Congress, or go serve in the Assembly, or go serve on the council for a few months, and then go back to your real job. That's how it's supposed to be. But what we end up having is pretty much 98% of everybody serving in any government is a lawyer. So you basically have a club. They've gotten together.
The club is right. And there's situations like we had here in Arizona not too long ago. We had a congressman by the name of Matt Salmon, served back in the early 90s during when, he came in 94 with the Gingrich group, how they were all going to change Congress. And, he pretty much got spun around and began to see what was going on. But he had promised he would only serve 3 terms. He served these 3 terms and he left, even though he could have easily been reelected. He supported the new guy coming in, Jeff Flake, who promised to also only serve 3 terms. Well, let me tell you, when those 3 terms were up, oh no. He's been in there now for 5 or 6 terms. He's not about to give it up. Now he's going to run for senator. I mean, these people get a taste of what it is to be so powerful and, travel around the world and be bowed down to and be so important. And they don't give that up. They just don't.
And yes, Judge Andrew Napolitano calls it Potomac fever. And that's what he calls it. But actually, Helen Chenoweth up in Idaho was the same thing. She was one of the late Helen Chenoweth, one of the great congressmen. And she said, I'll serve 2 terms and I'll stop. She served 2 terms and she stopped. The problem is the people who are honorable then end up leaving, and the people who are dishonorable end up staying, and it all gets turned upside down. All right, last question, because we're almost out of time. I always love speaking with you, Karen. Do you have any idea, what do you think has happened down in Quartzsite out of this whole thing?
You know what? I hope it's made national news. I've seen it on Fox and some of the other stations. So I'm hoping something good comes out of this, where these little towns are not going to be able to turn around and you know, shove things down their constituents' throats. I'm looking forward to doing a little more research on this, Brennan, getting you some answers, and maybe we can find out what's going to happen.
Excellent. Oh, and I really appreciate that, Karen. Thank you very much, if you can get me those answers. My guest has been former Arizona Senator Karen Johnson. And, Karen, you don't have a website or anything like that, do you?
No. I have an email, but I don't have a website.
You want to give it out to people, or?
Sure. It's Jerry Karen, that's JerryKaren, at FrontierNet, FrontierNet.net.
Excellent. Karen, thanks so much. God bless, and I'll look forward to hearing from you soon. Karen Johnson, Senator from Arizona.